Hello and welcome to open office hours for PAEA's business meeting scheduled for Tuesday, October 22nd at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This year we have a full agenda for the business meeting. There are 12 position policies that are on the consent agenda with recommendations to affirm, revise, or sunset. In addition, we have proposed a revision of our bylaws. These office hours are open opportunity for members to ask questions about the board motions or other items on the agenda. To assist us, PAEA's leadership team and governance attorney, Peter Wolk, are here today to help answer your questions. With that, I will turn it over to our senior advisor, Karen Hills, who has led much of this work this year. Thank you, Karen.
Well, thank you, President Burwell. I appreciate that very much. As we welcome you to our office hours, we do not have a presentation to make. This really is your time for you to ask the questions that you might need more information or additional details on. We do remind you that this session is recorded so that it will be available for others who were not able to attend, or certainly if you want to go back and look at it at a later time to refresh your memory on what questions maybe were addressed. If you would like to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand and unmute and ask your question, or certainly if you prefer, you're welcome to put it in the chat and we will do our best to address the questions you have. With that, I'll open it up for some questions.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was trying to find my raise hand, and I'm getting so used to not using Zoom that I forgot where it was. So I apologize for that.
No problem, Carl. We are delighted to have you here and delighted for you to ask us your question.
Thank you very much, and thanks for offering to have this. My only question was, I noticed that there were some changes to the bylaws. There were quite a few of them on the list, but I didn't see what I would typically think I see, which is like scratch outs and then added information. I just saw a final, like what looks like a final draft. So I didn't know what were the changes.
So that's a great question and appreciate you asking it, Carl. And we can put in the chat, there was a PowerPoint that went with on the web page that has a PDF of all the major changes that went with sort of what was proposed and then the summary of changes and the rationale behind that may be helpful as you look at it. But one of the things I wanted to just sort of bring to everyone's attention is that this revision was really done to align the PAEA bylaws with DC code and really modernize them, reduce obstacles, simplify things to really allow flexibility. And hopefully it was reorganized to be more clear and really create a narrative that's easy to follow and is very member focused and preserves all members' rights. So I think the reason we didn't put a lot of those track changes or strike throughs was because it was more of a reordering than it was a lot of changes. And so I'm hopeful that maybe that PowerPoint that I think someone kindly has put in the chat would kind of go step by step about what were those major changes. I don't know if that helps you or not.
Yeah, no, I see it now. I missed that. I think I clicked on the draft and I didn't, just assuming that I was going to see the strike throughs and everything, and then I didn't see it and I didn't bother to go back to look. And I see now that there's a separate document.
Well,
Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. I think we hope that that would just be an easier way to kind of track the changes. Just again, because it was so much of reordering than just really making substantive or massive changes to the document.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll take a look through here, which is I don't want to waste your time, and there might be other people with questions. Thanks.
Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to ask your question.
May I ask just a quick question?
Of course you can.
For Article 3.09, it says an emergency meeting can be held with 4 days notice. Is there a definition of emergency?
I was going to say, Peter, do you want to, we have our governance attorney with us, and I was going to
great.
say, he might be the best person that could perhaps help us identify that in terms of just with his experience with others. And Gaina will put it up so we can all make sure we're looking at the same thing.
Yeah, sure. I'd be glad to. Carl, hello. I'm Peter Walk, and
Hi, Peter.
here, I don't know if I'm coming up on video. Great question. That was actually inserted by way of the DC code to handle situations like the pandemic. And it's defined to mean a situation in which people cannot be gathered together of board members due to some catastrophe. So it's pegged to this notion of a catastrophe, and it allows groups to continue operations and make decisions where they otherwise would not be able to for failure of getting a quorum. So it anticipates problems outside of anybody's control that would have stopped governance decisions, basically at times when they most need to be made, allocation of resources, changes, and so on, by allowing flexibility in governance during an emergency caused by a catastrophe.
Okay, and so is that written somewhere else, the catastrophe piece, or is that?
Yeah, that's by DC code, and frankly, the DC code, as with other codes, there are regulations. You know, with every code, there's the possibility of regulations that get put in. So this could be adjusted as they want to. So we're not locked in. The statute says emergency meetings, and if the grounds or the bases for the definition change, we would go with whatever the code or the regulations say, rather than getting locked in.
Okay. And maybe this wouldn't be appropriate, but is there any way to put in there something about what an emergency meeting means for people reading through this, even if it says per DC code, emergency meeting consists of X, Y, and Z? I just wonder if that might be helpful as
let's take a
people
look
are reading this.
Yeah, or even by way of a footnote at this point in case it needs to be changed.
Footnote.
Yeah. So I think, Karen, do we still have? I think we have some explanations. So let's take that just for discussion afterwards, Carl, if that's okay.
That's great. Thank you for considering.
No, great question. Thank you.
I think also, while the bylaws have been revised, the policies and procedures manual needs to be updated. And so once these bylaws have been voted on and approved by the membership, if they so desire, there's other information that could be contained in the policies and procedures manual that can give additional clarification to certain things too. So Carl, this may not be the only place that something like that could be explained or delineated.
That makes sense. Thank you. I'm always leery of words like that that some people may say, well, you know, I saw that as an emergency, or someone wouldn't see it as an emergency. So I'm just thinking in my head. I don't have any other questions or concerns. Thank you so much for addressing that.
Thank you for taking the time to ask your questions. We appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to jump off. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today for our business meeting office hours. We appreciate your questions and we look forward to seeing everyone on Tuesday, October 22nd at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the 2024 business meeting. From all of us here at PAEA, we'll see you then.